Before I start, it is important you know that the human body and evolution are good at their job but aren't perfect, which will explain a lot of what you see. Also, even if they were perfect at some point, mutations cause variations to a large degree, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. The reason as to why you need a balanced diet is due to the fact that your body undergoes a variety of chemical reactions which require certain vitamins, minerals and nutrients, among other bodily processes. For example, calcium is obviously needed to maintain strong bones, but minerals such as potassium are needed to conduct electricity in your nerve cells, which are what allow one to actually move their body parts and relax/contract muscles at will. Furthermore, a balanced diet also means not getting too much as well as too little of these nutrients, whatever they may be, as it is very possible to overdose. For example, a potassium overdose can include irregular heartbeat and a tingling sensation in one's hands, feet and tongue, which is probably related to all the excess electricity in one's nerve cells, which goes to show just how important the right amount of nutrients are. On a more obvious note, food also provides energy, which is why carbohydrates are the foundation of a food pyramid. On a chemical level, energy is taken to digest more complex carbs by breaking them down into glucose. As you have learned from chemistry, breaking bonds requires energy and building them releases it. Digestion for this reason can be slow and can take energy. Despite this, glucose produces energy through respiration, as bonds between different elements of different energy values. E.GCSE bond has more energy within it than a CO bond, so overall, the energy required to break glucose down in respiration is less than what is produced by rebuilding it into carbon dioxide and water, hence respiration produces energy. Although I just said that CH has more energy than C0, a glucose molecule is C6H12O06, but the overall sum of energy from forming the C02 and H20 will exceed what needed to break it. Without going into details, you already know the formula for respiration, but did you know that respiration is really just combustion? It takes oxygen and burns glucose as a fuel, hence providing energy and heat. More specifically, pregnant women will need more energy than a non-pregnant woman, because not only does the baby consume some of that energy, but the woman will work harder to move around carrying the baby, hence more exercise. Metabolism is not the rate of respiration, but the rate at which energy is used by the body. Metabolism depends on both lifestyle and genetics, and is the reason why skinny people eat more and stay slim, as the faster metabolism means more energy is consumed before it becomes fat. Although this begs the question as to why overweight people eat more, if fat is supposed to be an energy reserve. Why can't overweight people tap into those reserves? Good question. The reason is probably because fat piles up more quickly due to a slower metabolic rate, while fat takes longer to be reconverted into energy, so in the meantime a person may need to eat more to gain immediate energy. Furthermore, a fat person still needs nutrients, vitamins, and minerals other than carbs, so will still need to eat, although it is not exactly possible to separate nutrients from carbs etc. in food. For example, an overweight person will eat some oranges to intake vitamin C. However, oranges obviously contain sugar, where more of which will become fat due to a slower metabolism. In addition, reasons for overweight people eating more can be due to hormonal imbalances, psychological reasons, or the fact that overweight people expend more energy exercising the same amount as an underweight person as they carry more fat. But why do underweight people eat less if they need more food? Once again, this is due to higher metabolism gaining more immediate energy from food than an overweight person, as well as psychological or hormonal reasons, and expending less effort exercising due to their lack of body fat. Gaining bad cholesterol is more a result of eating lots of unhealthy food than not exercising, but no exercising causes bad cholesterol to be broken down more slowly, which is why exercise is important and maintain healthy cholesterol levels. Diseases. It is important to know that bacteria are living things, and viruses are not, which is why antibiotics don't work on viruses, because they're literally just not biological. Viruses and bacteria attack the body by using different parts of the body as a host, depending on specific strains, and some will be adapted to different parts of the body than others. E.g. Some will multiply in lungs, others in the digestive tract. They will then reproduce and produce toxins which damage your cells and inhibit certain body functions depending on where they congregate. For example, coughing is a result of pathogens in the lungs irritating windpipes the same way smoke or not chewing your food enough would, which goes to show how diseases don't directly cause coughing, but meddle with bodily processes which result in coughing. This is why many diseases feature a temperature, as a raised body temperature are a more hostile environment for pathogens, as many that are adapted to the human body have an ideal temperature of 37, so anything more will inhibit the viruses, but will inhibit your body in some ways too, which is why a temperature is no fun. Despite this, white blood cells are adapted to higher temperatures, so can attack the virus cells with less opposition. White blood cells, as you already know, are designed to reproduce antibodies as well as fight pathogens and repair, which is the premise behind how vaccines work, since if there is a somewhat significant proportion of a given antibody, e.g. smallpox, in your body, it can be readily reproduced on a larger scale should the disease hit. However, eventually the level drops to below significant as new antibodies are formed against diseases which have more recently ravaged your body, which is why some vaccinations such as malaria among others need multiple vaccinations across your lifetime. Which is why you got vaccinations in first school, middle school and high school. Sad times, but not really. An injection is nothing compared to actually suffering that disease, which many take for granted because some diseases have been virtually wiped out because of vaccinations, and don't get them in fear of its side effects, which is a bad decision. Coordination and control. Don't confuse neurons and nerves, even though a nerve is just a collection of neurons. Don't forget that effector organs can include glands as well as muscles, as hormonal responses to your environment can be just as important as muscles. For example, if someone hits you, a release of adrenaline is as important as fighting back, as it allows you to shrug off the pain for the time being so you can fight effectively. Kind of like the time I got hit by a motorbike. I didn't feel anything until hours after. True story. Reflexes have been inbuilt into animals including humans for millennia, and are literally a survival mechanism. That's why you'll notice that just like animals, our reflexes are basically only to fight, back off or freeze, hence terms such as fight or flight response, or deer in the headlights, which refers to when a deer spots an oncoming vehicle and literally freezes on the spot. You should know that reflex and responses obviously involve electrical impulses across nerves, but they don't travel straight across the body like that. From the receptor, the impulse travels across the sensory neuron, and is converted to information when it meets the synapse between the sensory neuron and the brain, which is then processed before getting reconverted into an impulse and sent across the motor neuron and through an effector. Kind of like computer files. For example, receiving a PDF from someone, converting it into Word and editing it and adding to it, and reconverting to PDF before sending it to them. Spooky. What makes reflexes so fast is that instead of a standard response, which finds its way to the conscious part of the brain, a reflex finds its way to the subconscious part of the brain, which forms a response, albeit a simpler one, much faster, which keeps your ass alive when there's a demon bear after you. A simple way to think of homeostasis is literally like a set of internal nerves, where the receptor nerves track internal body conditions like water level and temperature, and the effector include organs and glands instead of muscles or limbs, etc. Homeostasis regulates body temperature, salt levels, water levels, etc. Homeostasis is very important, and your body becomes susceptible to damage when it cannot carry out its functions. E.g. if you're in a desert and you don't have enough water to be cooled by sweat, you're fucked. It's important to know that even plants have their own control systems, where they're receptive to gravity as well as light. This is literally why you see plants grow in weird shapes, since they reach for the light. It's funny, the way plants respond to light is remarkably similar to how muscles contract and relax. If we hit a plant which was horizontal and the light was above it, obviously, oxygen will be sent to the lower part of the plant. The lower part of the plant relaxes as it has oxygen, but the top part contracts due to the lack of it, causing the plant to grow upwards. Literally like how an arm contracts and relaxes to flex. Developing new medicines. It makes sense why blind trials are held, since there is no placebo effect felt by any patients. But then why are double-blind trials held? Simply so that the doctors don't accidentally give away or hint to the patient which medicine they are taking. Everyone obviously finds out at the end. Adaptation and survival. If you're wondering how species actually adapt, it's through evolution. There is obviously variations in each species, just like there are variations in humans in things like height, weight, skin and hair color. In animals, variation goes a step beyond that. A species adapts to its environment when a few of its members have a unique variation that allows them to survive more frequently and easily than others who don't. This results in that species reproducing more offspring with that same variation because more of them survived. Eventually most if not all members have the adaptation. An example could be a group of rhinos growing fur, which happened to allow them to survive when ice ages hit. Adaptation is not a spontaneous or fast process. It doesn't take place in one animal's lifetime, but instead across multiple generations. Just don't forget that many characteristics are a lot subtler than you'd think, and many are internal. Take sharks and whales for example. It's not as simple as, they live in the ocean together, they must be closely related. Not even. Little clues like how whales swim up and down and sharks side to side are a giveaway. Whales are smarter than stupid sharks, and whales are found in cold water where climates where sharks aren't. It was little things like this that lead people to discover that whales aren't fish. We know that whales evolved from mammals, so must have re-specialized to enter the ocean again. Similarly, the giant panda and red panda are found in the same parts of the world and both eat bamboo using wrist thumbs. But why don't other bears and weasels? Because they developed the characteristic independently, and aren't that closely related to one another. Although this does demonstrate adaptation to the environment, and that the way life has evolved can be complex and deceiving. So be careful in your exam. Adaptation could mean multiple things. It could mean adapting to hot or cold climates. It could be to local surroundings e.g. giraffes growing long necks. It can be an adaptation to catch prey or avoid predators. Anything that aids an organism in surviving, which can also include beating competition from other species. It really is a jungle out there, man. Let's list all the things that can kill an animal off, that they can adapt to: harsh environmental conditions, too hot or too cold. Polar bears have a small surface area to volume ratio to let less heat out, and some desert animals have adapted to hunting at night instead of day. Adaptations can include behavior too. Being easily available to predators or whatever may eat them. Some frogs have bright colors to indicate they are poisonous, and cacti have pricks, and are pricks themselves. Pricks finding it too difficult to find food/prey or water for plants, or being outclassed by other species. Jaguars have padded feet for stealth, and foxes have behaviorally adapted to urban environments and have no problem invading your trash can. If an animal fails to adapt, it will go extinct. It's easy to forget about the significance of competition, but remember the last time you walked through a forested footpath and through a park or something. You've never seen grass in a forest, and that's no coincidence. The trees absorb all the water and nutrients with their big-ass roots and all the light way their hide. The grass stands no chance whatsoever, even though it's not like the trees are eating the grass. Organisms are in competition with members of their own species as well as others. It is important to know that many plants adapt to their environment and competition not just by surviving themselves, but by finding new ways to disperse their seeds, such as the Rafflesia, which stinks like hell so flies can carry its pollen. It is very important to know just how rapidly changes in environment can affect organisms. A change can include an environmental change such as temperature increase or the introduction of a new species or removal of an old one. Let's say in the ocean, an increase in temperature may make it easier for seaweed to grow, and harder for kelp to grow. This will increase and decrease the populations. But because seaweed is in direct competition with algae, and the algae isn't affected by the temperature increase, the algae will decrease too. A clownfish benefits from the increase in seaweed as it eats it, whilst the blue tang suffers from the loss of algae. Let's say the blue tang also eats seagrass, which is unaffected. The seagrass will increase because there are fewer consumers. Sea lions will benefit from more clownfishes to eat. I can go on for ages, but you just need to know just how interconnected everything is. Energy transfer through a pyramid is far from perfect. If a fox is eating a rabbit, a fox will not eat the entirety of a rabbit. That's one waste. Not all of the rabbit can be fully digested, that's another. Digestion itself takes up some energy, and then the energy the fox does gain is used on moving around from place to place between meals, where a fox isn't even successful all of the time. Loads of energy gets lost through the food chain, which is what makes it so competitive. Adding to that, a lot of the energy which can be used to move and operate produced by respiration ends up released from the body as heat. It's tough. This is why there is less and less biomass as you ascend the pyramid, since energy is always being lost, which explains why you'll see an endless plain of grass, shitloads of rabbits, but a fox every now and then, if you were to hit the fields. Although that may be because they're too busy making sounds like someone is getting murdered at 3 a.m. on my road every fucking night. However, the energy in a system can still be considered a closed cycle, as things like feces and non-digested matter returns to the earth, as is the stuff of an animal that isn't eaten, as it decays. Even the apex predator obviously decays after death, and the cycle begins anew. Decomposers are not consumers because they fit absolutely anywhere on a food chain, and only break down dead matter. They are not predators. Energy in matter isn't destroyed or created, it is cycled, and that is what sustains an ecosystem. However, if the ability to cycle energy and matter is disrupted, the ecosystem crumbles. This why deforestation is dangerous, since all the energy in the trees are not returned to the ecosystem, but instead are kept in your fucking coffee table. This is why wood is burnt for fuel, heat and light, because burning it releases that energy inside it. Even fossil fuels don't have to be alive to have loads of energy within them. Decomposers are living things and need warmth, oxygen and water, which is why you're advised to keep your food in airtight, dry containers in a fridge to prevent it decomposing.